Until teams can commit to a goal, there will be no accountability. But how can you build trust? What is a sign of a lack of trust? Maybe the team feels tired of the way the product owner works.
Because last time you lied to us.
It is up to you to establish a high-performing team or not. If you know where to start, you can get to the result. Hi, I am David Pereira. Welcome to my channel. In today's episode, we are going to continue our book review series. And today we are going to review this book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, from Patrick Lencioni. This book was really revealing to me because I could learn a lot what it takes to become a high-performing team. And I understood why many of the teams I worked with were never high-performing teams. By the end of this video, you will understand how you can apply this into your scenario. I will make some analogies with a Scrum team because that's the scenario I come from. So let's start the review like this. The 5 dysfunctions of a team is based on a pyramid, and it means if you haven't reached the first level, you cannot go to the second, and so on and so on. One is the base for the other. And in short, there are 5 levels, which are: the first one is the absence of trust. A team without a trust cannot go anywhere. And then the second part is the fear of conflict. If teams are afraid of working things out, they will never be able to achieve commitment, which is the third dysfunction of a team, the lack of commitment. Teams who cannot commit to a goal, they will never be able to achieve results. And then it comes in the fourth part, which is the avoidance of accountability. Until teams can commit to a goal, there will be no accountability. But the last part is the inattention to results. Because being accountable is one thing, you are responsible for achieving the result. But if you don't achieve, what is gonna happen? Are your peers calling you out? If they are not, so you still have a dysfunction. And a high-performing team has all of these points covered. Now, let's start one by one and understand better why is it important and how can you solve that. The first is the absence of trust. As I mentioned, a team without trust is no team at all. But trust is something hard. It's not something you can claim. It's not something you can gain from one day to the other. Trust takes time. You build that. But how can you build trust? You build trust by empathizing with people who you work with. You understand where they come from, why they do what they do, and you can feel what they are thinking. You feel their emotions. There are a couple of exercises you can do to establish trust. But the main point is you have to understand the other side. You have to understand why they make the decisions they do, why they behave the way they do. And once you understand that, and the other side feels heard, then they will start establishing trust. And the team will be ready to go to the next step. But only once you trust each other, you can go to the next step. What is a sign of a lack of trust? A sign is people are afraid of talking because they don't know who they can trust. They don't know if someone is going to use something against them, and they fear being backstabbed. Then you can go to the second level, which is the fear of conflict. And here is something funny. Many people are afraid of conflict. This is a sign they don't trust each other. Because some people tell me, conflicts are bad, we should avoid that, because it can damage the relationship with our peers. Actually, not having conflict is even worse than that, because then you ensure that people don't care about anything. Let's consider one scenario here. The product owner has an opportunity, but the product owner is unsure if that is something worth pursuing. Product owner wants to validate the idea, and he brings that to talk with developers. And developers, they are unsure if the right way of building that is like quick and dirty to validate the idea. They want something scalable. And then they estimate as a very high number, and the product owner looks at that and say,
wow, this is too high.
But instead, he will trust the team, still thinks it's wrong. It is a sign that there is a fear of conflict. Actually, what should happen is product owner should look at the team and clear out, saying like,
I think this is the wrong approach because I want to ensure we can validate the idea. And my question to you, is your approach only looking at this perspective, or are you considering something else?
And developers may look and say,
well, last time you told us that we would just validate the idea, and then 1 month later you wanted us to scale to 1 billion users. And that was impossible. We lost a lot of time. We want to ensure we build this correctly now in a way that is scalable, because last time you lied to us.
In this case, you see there are some accusations, but it is important to clear that out before moving forward. Because if developers or product owners are really, I don't know what to say, I need to think before because the conflict is bad, then they will never be able to commit. And what is going to happen? In this case, it can be there will be compromise. Maybe the product owner will push the team, or maybe the team will push the product owner, but there is no team here. And once everyone has a chance of speaking up, everyone will put their perspective on the table, and then it's possible to make a decision. And the other side has to understand why the decision was made the way it was. Once that happens, then we can go to this third level. The lack of commitment, which is the third dysfunction of a team. A lack of commitment means everybody says, yeah, we will do that, but nobody is committing to that. And why is the case? That is the case because of the fear of conflict. If people are not speaking their opinions and their perspective, they will feel that they have no collaboration to the decision. And if they feel that, they feel they don't have to commit. They may say, yes, we are gonna do that. But what they think is, I don't care about this because that was not my decision. And they think, well, I have a different perspective. And the lack of commitment is what happens with many teams. An example that is classic with Scrum. The product owner says at the beginning of the sprint planning,
what is the capacity team?
And developers will say,
this sprint we have no holidays, so we have full capacity. Considering last sprint we delivered 33 story points, we can commit to the same.
And then the product owner will just push features to the team to deliver, and will expect the team committing to that without asking if it is possible to do that. And the team will look at that and will not say anything. Maybe the team feels tired of the way the product owner works, but the team says, well, that might be too much, but let's see what happens. Instead of saying, well, you are always defining without asking us our opinion if we can do that or not. You are just telling us what to do. But if the team doesn't say that, they will not commit to the sprint. And then what happens at the end of the sprint? It fails. And then nothing else is going to happen. And that leads to the fourth dysfunction, the avoidance of accountability. For example, if the team didn't commit, then the sprint failed. And what happens after the sprint fail? The product owner starts a new sprint after, and then there is the carryover and everything else. Nobody talks about anything, and we start again. But there's no evaluation why did the sprint fail and how could be done differently next time to ensure the sprint's not gonna fail again. Because there is an avoidance of accountability. Developers, they feel the product owner is accountable for the failure. Product owners feel developers are accountable for the failure, yet nobody's talking about anything. So first comes the commitment, and the team commits, and once there's a failure, we're gonna help each other to ensure that we are gonna overcome that. But there is a clear accountability. A common one happens a lot in the daily Scrum. For example, a developer says,
I'm gonna finish that by tomorrow.
And then tomorrow, the next daily Scrum, developer says,
I'm gonna finish that by tomorrow.
Nobody says anything. But if it's a real team, someone is going to say,
well, you said that yesterday. So what happened? Why didn't you finish?
When people are going in different direction, the other members should call them out because they are accountable for that. And until teams can feel accountable, or even better, people can feel accountable for each thing, they will never be able to get to the last level, which is the inattention to result. To solve this dysfunction of inattention to result, you need to solve the accountability problem. Because once you know who is accountable for what, you can call them out. And a sign of a high-performing team is there is a clear commitment, and you know who is going to do what until when, and then your peers will call you out when you are either going to a different direction or you are not achieving what you committed to. An example would be in the daily scrum, when someone said, I'm going to do something, and the next day nothing happens, any developer would look,
What happened? You committed to that. You should be accountable.
and then the team will get better. So if you want to have a high-performing team, you should understand in which level you are, which are the dysfunctions of your team, and then you solve dysfunction by dysfunction. But for example, if you realize your team has no accountability and you try to start solving this problem, but you don't understand if the team trusts each other, you are not going to be able to solve the fourth dysfunction without solving the first. You need to understand which dysfunctions your team has, and then you solve one by one, but you need to start from the base of the pyramid. This is the secret. I have seen many high-performing teams, and high-performing teams, they clearly trust each other. They are brave to go in conflicts. You can think they are fighting because it can be some emotional discussion. Because when you are in a fear of conflict, what is the result? It is a fake harmony. But in a high-performing team, what is the result? It can be something very strong and you feel the team is not doing well. But after the conflict, they understood the discussion was to solve something, and then they can commit to the result. And as they can commit to the result, they will be accountable for that, and each peer will call the other out. The book from Patrick Lencioni was mainly for the leadership and looking at the executive level of a company. But for me, this is applicable in any level of the team. It is up to you to establish a high-performing team or not. If you know where to start, you can get to the result. Reality is tough. Most teams are dysfunctional, but they are not looking how to solve dysfunctions. They just keep moving forward. That's why they have a low performance at the end of the day. And my curiosity is, why don't we stop to solve such problems? I would be curious to understand your scenario. What dysfunctions do you see and what could you do to solve them? If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you want to have more content like this, just subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.